Security Council Secretariat. The esteemed panelists for this session are as follows. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request you all to please kindly remain seated. This is not a break. And since we are behind time, we would like to seek your cooperation in catching up. Straight away going on to the next panel discussion. The esteemed panelists are as follows. Shri Y. Purushotam, Scientist G, Defense Electronic Research Laboratory, DRDO. Mr. Rajshekhar, Pullabhatla, Director, Information Sharing and Analysis Center, that is ISAC. Mr. Shivaji Chatterjee, President and Managing Director, Hughes Communications India Private Limited. Dr. V. Sesagiri Rao, Advisor, Avantel, former Associate Director, ISRO. Mr. Sai Krishna, CEO, Saptang Labs. We start by inviting our esteemed chair and moderator to please join us on stage. Please join me in extending a warm applause to Major General Manjeet Singh. A very warm welcome to you, sir. May I also request our esteemed panelists to please join us on stage. So there they are, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to start with the panel discussion, Comms Strategies for Modern Military Operations Under Contested and EW Environment. I now hand it over to the esteemed chair. It's over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and Jai Hind. We have an important topic to discuss. We have an hour's time, and the topic, I think, has already been flashed to you. It's the communication strategies for modern military operations under contested and EW environment. So what we intend doing is, it's for the panelists that I'll just introduce the subject, and thereafter we will request the panelists to kindly give out their initial remarks for about 2 to 3 minutes each. And thereafter, I will throw open certain questions to each one of them, because they are all from the specialist fields. And thereafter, I think we'll open the house for discussion and questions and comments, and it'll be absolutely interactive session. I would request the panelists to keep sitting and speak from the places where you are. And that's how we'll take the about next 1 hour or so forward. So just to introduce the subject, this is a subject which is dear to everyone, and it's not really a new subject. We have the community which is sitting here is absolutely well versed with the subject and the challenges associated with this. Just to cover basics of this multi-domain warfare, we have the land, air, sea, and have been joined by the space and cyber, the cyber having become the latest 5th dimension of war. And when you look at the overall, let's say, battle space, what are the kind of entities? Entities are there on the land, maritime, space, air, everywhere. And the participant entities are highly mobile, each looking to outmaneuver, outdo the adversary by making the impact at the right time, at the right place. And what are the aspirations of these entities from the communication environment or the networked environment? Their aspirations are complete situational awareness, timely decision making, and timely action. They're looking at shortening the OODA loop so that they can outdo the adversary. And another typical issue about the modern warfare is that everyone is operating very complex machinery with huge dependence on electronics, connectivity, timely information, PNT, position navigation timing requirements. So that also adds to the complexity. And then there are complexities added due to varied platforms. You have the UAVs, you have the hypersonic weapons going, and then you have the varied services, the joint services environment, and now we have the theaterization coming up. Then we have the varied cultures, varied requirements. That all adds to the challenges in the modern warfare. You have the different geography and terrain, which poses, again, different type of challenges. And all this is happening in a common, contested space. Now, where is this contest? The contest can take different forms and shapes. The contest is happening between human to human, human to machine, machine to machine. There is a context in the EM spectrum. There is a contest in the physical space. There is a contest in the cyberspace. And space, as was covered in the last session, I was listening to them, very beautifully covered. Again, a very, very contested space there, maritime, land, air. So there is a contest through these kind of shapes and forms, and it results into a contact warfare and a non-contact warfare, a kinetic warfare and a non-kinetic warfare. So it's truly a cross-domain, multi-domain operations which we would encounter in the future. So in all these realities and challenges, how do I make my C4I2SR work? And how do we really look at it? So communications are the backbone of the C4I2SR, connecting all the stakeholders. And therefore, the imperatives of modern warfare on communications are some of those. First is to stick to the basic principles. My communication should be available, reliable, and survivable. That's the basic principle, back to basics. The networks must ensure execution of net-centric operations through resilient, high-capacity backbone and tactical communications, including satellite-based. They should be able to ensure info sharing, shared situational awareness, speed of decision, and employment of combat power for the mission accomplishment through secure communication networks. Seamless exploitation of niche and emerging technologies in ICT at theater, operational, and tactical level. And a huge amount of capacity and capability building. And that has to happen now. We can't wait for that day. And the communication network need to be omnipresent, responsive, flexible, and ruggedized to withstand adversaries' physical and semi-activity, these cyber and electromagnetic activities. So that's the reality as far as the modern warfare is concerned, or a contested battle space is concerned. So with that as a little background, I think we'll go over to the speakers. And to begin with, I would request all speakers to tell as to how do you look at the complexities of future warfare as per your perspectives, based on your experiences in different fields, in different industries, in different backgrounds, and the imperatives for the communication networks. So we can do that, I think, from one side, maybe from, can we start from your side? Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Hi guys, my name is Raj, and I'm the director of the ISAC Foundation, and we are a non-profit focused purely on cybersecurity. From my perspective, again, from last 1 decade, we've been running the National Security Database, a platform of hackers in India. We have about 74,000 people today in identified hackers in India that we are tracking and profiling them on a day-to-day basis. Every year, we have approximately 600 hackers adding to the database. Now, I would like to share some insights from our experience in this domain. Now, some years back, there was a leak in the dark web where the entire access to the Penguin satellite data center of China was available. where the username passwords of all the scientists, their email ID passwords, and access to their devices, as well as the documents of the Penguin data center, satellite data center was available, where you had codes, tools for decoding the satellite communications, the software which was being used by the Chinese agencies, as well as the documents pertaining to the design. And interestingly, this was the second leak which was observed on dark web. The first one was before the quantum satellites was launched by China. The entire details were available on dark web. Now, some funny insights in this is that, first of all, the hackers actually broke into it and they put it on the dark web. They did not know the value and importance of it, number one. Second, if you are an agency in India or some other country, my question is that the hackers were asking an amount of sum, and I specifically remember that Indian agencies refused to spend that money thinking that maybe it's not worth it. Why? And they didn't have actually a channel to do it at that point of time, or there was no policy as such. So very sad that it happened, but it's an opportunity lost. But however, what I want to tell you is that in electronic warfare or the space of this domain, cyber, you cannot ignore it. At the end of the day, when the identities are compromised, and if it's ones and zeros at the end of the day for cybersecurity people, and any technology that you use, if it's compromised at the end of the day, then there is no point of having it. So if you could actually control satellites, or steal designs, or even download data from data centers without legitimate access to it, then what's the point of all these things? So to put into one more point in perspective, the thing is that today we signed an MOU with SIA-INDIA, right? It's again, from my perspective, is very historic and very important. Why? Because as a foundation, we are bringing in some platforms and capabilities that are very crucial, and I hope that the audience here will actually capitalize on this MOU. Number one is that, okay, I'll ask a simple question to you. If the same thing happened to your organization, if hackers were able to compromise your data and put it on dark web for sale, what would be your reaction? How would you deal with it? That's a worst case scenario. Second is that if there is a hacker available in India who is willing to tell you a vulnerability by exploiting a system today in your networks, how is your reaction to that to that person? So I remember one specific case way back. There was a hacker who actually compromised VSNL. Now it's different, right? So the reaction of the officers was that arrest him and put him in jail, because how dare he touch my systems? And the hacker's hand was broken in the police station, because the police was asking from which IP address did you enter inside physically. He was not able to understand that IP address actually is not a physical door. But there was a huge outcry on this particular incident. But what I'm trying to tell you is that if hackers come today and tell you that there is a concept called bug bounty hunting, I'm sure most of you are aware of this, right? Now, can you believe it? In India, there are RUDP programs run by NCIPC, right? You also have similar programs run by certain, but there is no incentive. All they get is a recognition on the website and a certificate. Fine, fantastic. You'll attract amateurs, you'll attract kids with it. But serious bug bounty researchers will not waste their time on this. They will never submit it to you. The reason is because there is a US agency like HackerOne, a platform, which will pay you thousands of dollars, even if it is not their intelligence connected with them. So if you hack into the aviation or aerospace segment in India, a US company is willing to pay thousands of dollars to Indian hackers if they submit it over there first. So there's no incentive. So one point that I would like to express is that cyber is a different ballgame altogether, and there is a lot of intertwining of warfare along with cyber. You can't avoid it. So there is a legitimate requirement for awareness within the administration to understand that you need to put budgets aside for these kind of activities, put policies in place so that these can be counted properly. And last point is about the simulations platforms. Now, Sena Ranakshitram, in 2021, when we did the Indian Army Hackathon as ISAC, when we executed this, I cannot tell you how upset we were that in spite of reaching 50,000 colleges in India through the AICD collaboration that we have, we had less than 200 people who were able to come for the SDR challenge. Just 200 people who applied for it, because there was no competence in the country for that. I mean, there are people who are good in it, but they just were not willing to come because there was no adequate training, no capacity. So as I was saying, there's an immense need to build that capacity. We don't have it today in India. It's unfortunate. 2021, 200 guys came for SDR challenges. And you know what? there are so many companies who do this work, right? Startups. We approached at least 50 companies in this space to tell them that why didn't you design challenges for this kind of hackathons and conferences to support an ecosystem like this. None of them came forward saying that it's a waste of our time. We are startups. We are busy with our business. What will I get as an incentive if I spend 7 days of my time in preparing a challenge in SDR so that the army can benefit? I'm just telling you facts down the line. So bottom line is that if you look at the country first approach, you need to be more proactive as a company, as a startup. You need to share knowledge, come forward, participate in these kind of activities and help in building capacities. So cyber warfare simulations, again, a big thing. There are things that we are bringing under this MOU, precisely this pain problem we are addressing. So bug bounty hunting platform in India, we are bringing it along with the SIA-INDIA initiative. Every company here who is member of this association or is participating in this conference is welcome to participate in it. All 70,000 plus hackers that we have in our network will put them on job to make sure that they find problems in your networks and hardware systems and help you resolve it faster from India. They'll do it for you, right? And so many other things. Cyber warfare also capabilities we're bringing it. So that is my perspective on this, sir. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Purushotam, scientist from DLRL, which is an EW laboratory from DRDO. The first thing that the communication network needs is 24/7 availability, 100% availability with reliable operation. Then it should have a low probability of detection and low probability of intercept. That means we should have spread spectrum or frequency hopping and coupled with adaptive modulation. Then should have a small form factor, and data rate should be high so that communication can be done and important decisions can be made, as already spoken by the chairman. Now we have built many systems, but integration of systems is a new challenge now, and real-time data transfer from assets. I come from a EW community. For example, from a helicopter ESM subsystem, I detect a radar. This I have to communicate in real time to shipborne EW suit so that they can take an action for launching a decoy or launching a jamming operation, or even the helicopter itself, if it has the EW capability of having a decoy, that can be done. So this needs basically higher data rates and real-time connectivity. This makes the power of forces becomes more, and it becomes more than the sum of the parts when such communication is available. And timely action can be taken, and action of the hostile forces can be avoided. But as we go along integrating systems, integrating different sensors together, there is bound to be congestion. That is one part of it. So the network is going to be congested. So we need more mechanisms to avoid congestion also. So bringing of space also into the integration is one important step to avoid congestion, so that there is one more layer added. Second part is, because of all these internet over things and so many devices, systems connected together, cybersecurity, as brought out by my previous panelists, that is extremely important, and sufficient policy, as well as that is who needs to have access to what information in terms of interfaces, in terms of messages. This has to be prepared well in advance, and action has to be taken for disseminating, for giving information to where it is needed. So these are the two parts. Then the second thing is satellite communication helps in building the resilience of the network by having an additional layer. Second thing, we also require satellite terrestrial integration, which is very important. Recently, I heard that the companies in US, like they're integrating satellite along with troposcatter as well as SDR. Recent experiment was made where different different systems were made by different organizations. Here, troposcatter system is developed by DRDO, SDR is developed by DRDO, there needs to be a synergy, and there needs to be a holistic evaluation process and requirement, so that such multi-layer integration takes place. Second thing is we also require integration between different layers of communication. For example, when satellite communication doesn't work, we need an alternative mode of communication, that is HF. Recently, SDR action in HF has also improved. So any waveform now with the advent of SDR, we are able to get wider bandwidths, and with less wider bandwidths, but still link gets operational. So multi-layered communication with different components of the network are very important. In future, I see spectral efficiency improvement, then extreme diversification by use of a number of nodes, like number of LEO satellites, then increase in bandwidth, increase in frequencies, then use of high throughput satellites for dedicated links with multiple spot beams, and in fact satellite frequency reuse is also being thought of. With this, I hand over to the chair.
May I request Mr. Chatterjee to kindly give your initial remarks.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Shivaji Chatterjee. I'm the President and Managing Director of Hughes Communications India. So I'll say that, we are fortunate that we are at a very exciting and probably the most exciting time ever that satellite communications has ever seen. It's a kind of perfect storm with the technology and innovation which has happened, bringing NGSO constellations to reality, commercial technology reality, by bringing a convergence of space, IT and telecom, where you have these constellations housed on the cloud, but with the 3GPP and 5G core. I mean, it's something which we wouldn't believe that, Spacecom was always seen as something niche and isolated, and now with the mainstream IT and telecom integration, I think it's really become something which is actually integrated into every reality, and not just commercially, but even into the defense. Definitely, I'll say that what is even more of a bonus is what's happened in India with 3.5 years back, when India decided to open the doors to have privatization in space and have a space regulator, and InSpace was born, and maybe SIA was also born at the same time. It's only because of all of this, the macro global action, and definitely the Indian regulatory elements. We've been serving networks in India to the defense for different bodies for a long, long time, both strategic and the C4 ISR networks, but they've always been kind of niche, capacity constrained, and definitely in light of the current modern warfare, definitely not able to scale up. What's happening with this transformation is a whole lot of capacity, whole lot of technology is coming in here, and that's really where I think the best application is. Just the concept of a LEO constellation provides, the key element of diversity. When we look at the subject here, it's about how you manage risk, how you have foolproof communication, and compared to a geostationary satellite, the LEO, just the way the constellation is designed and interacts, it's extremely difficult to hack, and it's definitely very, very secure. Looking at what we bring, and we have OneWeb, which is going to be available to all of you very soon. It has 2 levels of encryption, a 128 and a 256-bit AES encryption. It has an additional layer that we are adding with even a quantum key encryption, and then of course you have the user and application level encryption. So if you just look at the macro element of how sturdy the LEO system is, and then you add this diversity and security, it makes for a very strong and compelling solution. What's even more of a boon is mobility, which has got born. There's always so many programs by the defense to really equip and make the terminals active. It so happens that India is one of the unique countries where our border regions are either in the hills or the deserts, and it's very tough to get terrestrial communication, and satellite is even more key. It's more true for India than any other country in the world, and that's why for the defense satcom has always been so important, because of where a lot of the need of satcom and the telecom networks is, and they are in the toughest terrains. And that's where, you know, the mobility and the man packs and terminals and on the move, on the pause solutions. And when you have LEO, which brings a satellite down by 36 times, closer to the earth, the whole physics and dynamics are different, and you have a whole slew of solutions now which are coming up, which are going to be extremely exciting. And of course, the next level of that is the direct to device, which is going to integrate that even more into a palm size and into a standard phone. So really exciting times, I'll say, for this segment in terms of how satellite communications can benefit, how it can provide that security, the diversity, allowing different kinds of terminals to be used, and really use all this great comms off the shelf, the whole learning curve today for deployment and solutions, which I've seen happening with, I'll say closed networks. I think that is going to get a big jump start. So very exciting times, and specifically for India, I'll say two big things are coming this year. The OneWeb launch, which will happen in a few weeks, and the service readiness. And I think the first users are going to be the Triforces. And second is India's largest commercial satellite, GSAT-20, bringing Ka-band capacity of 50 gigabits, designed for India and designed for the borders and islands for the first time. So I think these two great capacities, and India, you can talk of all these solutions, but if you don't have enough capacity, how are you going to manage in a contested environment? So the first thing is real-time communication and having enough capacity to be able to respond and defend accurately. So that's what I'll say, and I'll come back for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. May I now request Dr. Sheshagri Rao to kindly give out initial comments.
Good afternoon to all of you. I am from ISRO, former Associate Director of SHAR and part of Avantel team today. Let me put a statement here. Space will define the future of national security. There is no doubt on that. The moment I call national security, it is not meant for, let us say, fighting war with the neighbors, or let us say to annex something from the neighbor. It is in case it is required to safeguard ourselves. There are many ways of looking at it in fighting war. If any country, it becomes, let us say, financially down, you can always say that you have won the war in that sector. Nowadays, the moment the monitoring starts from space, it is not only for communication purpose, not only for remote sensing. I would like to know, or the countries would like to know, what are various other things I can monitor for that belongs to the other countries that can be listed. And people say that what is the economically viable sector a particular country is flourishing. If you are able to disrupt it, then you are more or less won the war. These kind of things are happening now. When such a thing is happening, what you need is, you need the information in shortest possible time. Any space-based network, normally when it is in LEO, we all feel that the latency point of view, we are immediately getting the data. That is not the technology here. The technology is the edge computing. See, I collected the data. I want to do an algorithm to run over it. I want to get an inference. I don't want to wait the data to be downloaded into a ground station, apply my algorithm, take the inference, go for action. Please go into the details of time taken here. It is quite a huge time nowadays. The thing is, do everything in space on the onboard computer. That is the key. People are going for the edge computing. The moment you are in the edge computing, what are the transportation layers or what are the platforms where you need a secure communication? You have secure communication point of view, low altitude platforms, they are aircrafts, near space platforms, they are actually the HAPS, and you have the ISS, the LEO, MEO, GEO, and it is extended to cislunar space. We should not be behind the moment you want to create some activity for observation purpose in cislunar space. What can be done here? We are talking about hacking. Nowadays, the insurance companies are coming up saying, the moment a particular hardware and software, if you port it, if it is getting hacked, they are ready to pay the insurance in addition to the substitution of the satellite. That is the type of hardening people are working. There are other ways of working. The moment you say a particular piece of software on board should not be hacked, there is a concept coming with multi-buffer, a dual buffer concept. One buffer is touch me not. The second buffer is always my prime software running. The operational buffer is the one which runs and takes the data. The moment at any time, if I want to collect the data for a deterrence, the operational buffer is always copied from the second buffer, which is always a fresh software. Even the element of hacking is not likely to be there. So that is the type of thing coming. The other concept coming is homomorphic encryption computation. Probably this may be a new word here. The moment data is encrypted, I must be able to do my computation without going into decryption. Is it possible? Have you heard of it any time, this kind of a concept? This is coming up. The moment you are able to do a computation, when the encryption is present there, is a concept where everybody wants it. There are motherboards in that, there are platforms in that, and all minimal activities they want to do without decrypting. This is a concept actually thrown up in many areas. And the moment you say that you have a constellation in Leo that has to be protected, are you aware there are some satellites which takes care of radio frequency shielding? The radio frequency shielding is another concept where your jamming point of view, a comfort is assured. So there are a constellation, the constellation has got a redundancy, and the constellation has got a support with radio shielding. You have got a radio shielding, you have got a software with the 3 buffer management, and you have got homomorphic encryption computation where you can compute your data when encryption was present. So this is the type of concept one has to go the moment you say in the contested space you want to survive. These are the concepts coming up, and I read in DARPA there are 14 companies who are doing this. Under ISAC, this kind of cooperation is extended to Indian startups. Let me also say, in the frequency operations point of view, the resilience tactical SATCOM is one concept. The nuclear survivable SATCOM is another concept, and also proliferated warfighter space architecture, PWSA. It is not something conventionally I am operating a OS, I am operating an application, I don't want a hacker, I don't want jamming. These things we have a minimum say. The reason is there are more number of people who are working in the hacking side, there are more number of people who are working on the jamming side. The concepts which make us, let us say, foolproof computation is important. The other thing immediately one has to capture on and keep moving is quantum key distribution. Very, very important. You all know that one of the countries have launched quantum communication satellite. Why not we? Why not the sectors that are present here and the companies collaborate? This is very important. Then another few points before conclusion, what I want to tell here is the software-defined radio is coming up in a big way. And if you look at the applications where these things are being taken into, runs from the robotic on the battlefield, the automation of vehicles, and there are many other similar things, simulations and tactical warfare and many other things. This is the time to consolidate who are the companies and the government sectors that are doing research in SDRs and also the ground terminals should be consolidated by SIA, and correctly the requirement point of view, it should be sensitized and they should be given a chance even to experiment their activity, to give an experimental satellite with some companies come up with their investment. You should be able to provide the frequency related permissions, also the slots required, so that the time required to come up with this kind of technologies can be shortened. We don't have any satellites and corresponding frequency transponders that can be offered to a private sector where they can do an experiment. No, I have not seen. If that is the case, even somebody comes up with an architecture where I can test it with the space-based transponder. So it is all the while SIA can look at it, which are all the frequencies where they can put transponders either in LEO or MEO or GEO and offer it as a service. That service can be a paid service or a free service to the government sectors as well as the private sectors, so that the moment they develop an architecture, it is usable straight away. That is the only way of reducing the lead time in the development. So with these few things, let me thank all the people here to have given me an opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. May I now request Mr. Sai Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chair. I am Sai Krishna. I represent a company called Saptang Labs, and I also represent a company called Maithravarna Technologies. We are largely working in the space of artificial intelligence and cybersecurity, so I reserve my comments on those space. So there is no denial that we are discussing all these topics under the whole umbrella of the Ukraine war and the type of EW that is being used there and how it is successful and what is happening. In fact, I've read an article saying that the Ukrainian general calls EW that is being used by the Russians as a scissors that cut the threads. So that is one scenario. And second thing that we are also observing is the modern military operations. Now, there is a new concept which we've been following about how the Chinese developed it. It's called military operations other than war. I'm highlighting these 2 points because if we look at the brilliant topic that is given to us, communication strategies for modern military operations, under contested EW environment. Contested EW environment, straight away, I think it comes from what we all have been observing in the Ukraine-Russia crisis. And we, as a nation itself, we started doing a modern type of military operations, be it surgical strikes, be it border incursions. I think these are the realities of the next probably for a decade or so that we should think about. And with these two in the background, when we're looking at a communication strategies to support these operations, I think it is simple to say that our objective should be broken down into set 1, securing our communications, set 2, denying enemy access to his own communications. So brilliantly put by Sun Tzu, don't fight till you have put yourself beyond defeat. I think we should start contemplating about how do we put ourselves beyond defeat. I mean, beyond defeat doesn't guarantee victory, but you can still stay around to fight again. I think in my observation, from my limited understanding, I think there are two important components that we can talk of. The first component is, in these contested EW environments, if we minimize the human damage, like loss of lives, that would give your country and your political leadership a will to fight and will to continue to fight. How do we do that? Probably we should start seriously looking at unmanned warfare, probably using bots. Today, artificial intelligence solutions, machine learning solutions have much better ability to comprehend realities, especially in known circumstances. May not be great in fighting space wars, but they can definitely fight a terrain that you already know or some data that you already have about an enemy without any EW. Because the autonomous bot doesn't communicate back or doesn't receive any instructions, there's no way you can jam it. You can just fry it with microwave, but I'm sure there are solutions to protect them. I think we have to start contemplating. At the least, you can use these unmanned bots to connect the units which are physically separate by drilling. Imagine it like a drilling robots. They drill and just cable them. I mean, why should we always depend on, very expensive jamming solutions which consume a lot of energy and we don't always have them in the battlefield and also create a lot of noise? I'm trying to see some sort of a strategy that we can come up where, we minimize our cost and we increase the enemy's costs. And second component that I think today, because of the advances that we see in the EW, almost all EW platforms have some sort of software. In fact, I see most of my esteemed panelists have been talking about SDRs. They're software defined to start with. So that is another advantage that we can take. If our software defined radios are secure, and we have identified bugs in the enemy software-defined radios, which we can exploit through cyber, I think we have an extreme advantage. So there is a reason why people say the fifth dimension, which is cyber, oversees over the fourth dimension, which is space. Probably that is another angle that we should definitely look at. So with these 2 points, Chair, I request you to kindly take the forward.
Thank you for those absolutely great initial remarks, and in fact lots of concepts, frameworks, and the strategies have come about. I want to give another 2 minutes each to asking few questions, though at the cost of a little time. Having gone through this kind of framework, conceptual issues which came about very beautifully from the speakers and the panelists, newer and newer systems, I just want to ask Dr. Seshagiri Rao that how do we really go on as far as the defense community is concerned in a contested actual battle space? Should the satcom become the primary means of communication? Can it take on? Can you do a bit of SWOT analysis for that in a quick 2 minutes roundup, and followed by I'll request you to take on any further comments.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All of you must have heard of the satellite constellations that have come up by the Starlinks or OneWeb or whatever it is. If you look at the requirement there, the internet backbone that is available across the globe covers only 30% of the land. The deep oceans, the forests, there is no way of communications except the VSAT terminal kind of a thing. That is why the concept point of view, in addition to that type of constellations, recently people have come up as D2M. D2M is like your D2H, is dish to mobile. This satellite is nothing but a moving tower in the orbit, a moving cell tower in the orbit. See, when you are traveling from one place to the other place, you cross so many towers, your signal is automatically linked. If a moving tower is there in space, so that means the moment the satellite visibility from one satellite to the other satellite takes over by the mobile, you are already covered. The moment you are in such an environment where you got a constellation of D2M, to my knowledge, Starlinks have launched only last month a few numbers, and the Linux have launched some numbers. It is the time for India to go for D2M. So DTM should be the first technology. The moment you say you require an uninterrupted signal, either IoT point of view, communication point of view, battlefield point of view, and collecting many data in different ways. So since it is a starting point taken up by two countries only now, India should lead in this area and see that as far as the gaps in the communication is concerned, they can be closed more meaningfully.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know we are short of time. Just to top up, I'll say that yes, satcom can be the only network, but it doesn't need to be only one satcom network. That's where the importance of the sovereign satellites plus the multi-orbit combination is what will bring you the diversity and the best of both worlds. Also, clearly in the air, in the water, that's where satcom networks are prevalent, and of course on the borders, because of the type of terrain, it's prevalent. So definitely, I'll say with the right construct, this is the way it's going to go. And I think finally, with enough capacity, not necessitating the need to go to terrestrial, I think that's where the sweet spot is.
Thank you.
I'll request Shri Purushotam to kindly throw some light on the role of SDR in our communication overall framework and strategy as to how do we see the role of SDR and how does it really enmesh into the overall communication setup?
SDR, there have been a lot of improvements in the technology in recent times in SDR.
Yeah. Thank you.
Basically, now we are increasing the spectral efficiency. So that is the first thing. That is, we are using MIMO radios. That is a new development. Though MIMO has been earlier used for other communication segments, now for SDRs it is being used more proliferately. Then we have mobile networked MIMO and waveforms which are helping us to make a mesh network, make a network which will heal itself also. These are being made. These are being offered in a very small form factor also. This is done by a number of underlying techniques like spatial multiplexing. That is the same, the different data is routed to different spatial streams on the same, from the same antenna, thus increasing the capacity. And then transmit beamforming, receive diversity. All these concepts are being used. And basically the frequency range also now has increased. Now from UHF to C-band, we are able to operate in a very small form factor. These are the improvements in SDR technology that I have seen.
Thank you so much for those inputs. May I now request Mr. Rajshekhar to tell us, take us to the cyber and the EM spectrum contests and the threat landscape quickly and the mitigation strategies broadly as to how do we really look at it.
So in this endeavor, I would like to point out that there is, it's a multi-layered approach. Obviously, there's a lot that has to be done in cyberspace. So what I would like to do is that all of you would like to invite you to the Hyderabad International Airport GMR Revision Academy, where we have established a cyber range on the physical space for simulating various attacks on the hardware and software. And that's a platform under a range where anything and everything that can go wrong in an airport or an aviation sector can be simulated over there. And when it comes to cyberspace, there is a framework called MITRE ATT&CK framework. I'm sure most of you are aware of it. And using AI, there's a simulation that has been deployed in this sector, where every known possible cyber attack can be thrown at the hardware and software platforms, and they can be automated to see how ready your defenses are. A similar platform or a range will be available at the Delhi International Airport. We are building it. I think in the next 2 months, it will be available at the Delhi Airport also, for all of you to come and participate and look into it. What I would say is that in the coming days, it's very crucial that all the people get together to actually build capacity in this domain, because there are so many approaches in actually securing it. There are so many frameworks that can work in securing these areas. So I strongly propose that the cyber crisis simulation war games, especially tabletop exercises and war games, especially in the EW environment, along with cyber, have to be conducted in India on a large scale using these kind of cyber ranges. And we must invest in creating such kind of cyber range platforms, creating these specifically to build capacity and involve the academia in this in a very large way, so that maybe 5 years down the line, when you're looking at very strong capacity in this domain to get offensive tomorrow or to become defensive also, you will need the brightest minds to work for you, right? You can't imagine them to be going out and working somewhere else. So for example, just last October, we delivered a huge platform to the UAE government, and we won not one but 2 Guinness Book of World Records to build one of the world's best simulator on IoT and OT security platforms for the UAE government. This has been done by multiple governments now. So these platforms, why are they investing in so much money in these kind of platforms? It's simply because they understand that the future is in these platforms only, in these technologies only. So that is what the take is from my side. And I hope that in the coming days, the members get together to invest in a platform like this and build capacity in this domain.
Thank you so much. I've been reminded twice for the time, but I can't leave Mr. Sai Krishna behind, and I'll like to 2 minutes to you for how do we really look at AI in cyber and cyber for AI, both ways. Just 2 minutes on that. Thank you.
Sir, I'll continue the same discussion that I had. So now, why don't we look at using bots for waging wars? Now, how do you look at bots? I think even the bots, we can put a structure pretty much like the way there's an infantry bot and there's a signals bot. Both have their respective knowledge, because these respective knowledge is readily available, because we have institutions which have been built only on that knowledge. And based on that knowledge, we can model a bot behavior and implant it. And because we know the specific purposes, it's easy for the operators, it's easy for the design of the plans, everything, because we already know what we are dealing with. So this sort of application, I think, will be greatly helpful in working in these type of environments. Now, very quickly, it's not a good idea to stay between lunch and people who are hungry. So AI and cyber, I think, same problems. Cyber is always a very highly expert-oriented field. Now, there is always a shortage of experts in cyber. And as a field, cyber is expanding, proliferating. In fact, probably we would have seen 5 or 6 desktops, mobiles, and others. Now we have hundreds of devices which are connected to cyber. So each one is an additional attack surface. And we cannot produce so many experts. And when expertise also becomes highly narrow, they also miss the bigger point. So this is a sweet spot that AI can actually help. So there are 80% to 90% of the vulnerabilities that AI can very efficiently detect. Because even an experienced human would actually use the same analogies in his mind to say, there is a problem here, let me dig through. So AI can reduce that amount of time taken and come up with a short list of vulnerabilities, which a real expert can actually work on. I think that would be a smooth combination. Sir, I think we should start with our satellite systems, because they're still not so sophisticated, but I'm sure they will become sophisticated in times to come. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, since we don't have time, I'll request everyone to kindly get your questions. During the lunchtime, we can have some interaction on specific issues. We have experts available. So all that remains for me is to thank the organizers, the SIA and the Sanjos, for inviting us all here to share our thoughts on a very important subject, which is so very dear to us and very important for all of us. I would also like to thank the panelists for sparing your valuable time and being here. to give us those valuable thoughts, strategies, and concepts which we all need to really look at seriously, and make sure that we safeguard our cyberspace, we safeguard our EM space in the best interest of conduct of the modern warfare. Thank you so much.
Thank you, esteemed Chair. Thank you, esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Before we take a break for lunch, just a piece of information that I would like to share with you all. Yesterday, we had found 2 phones in the lunch area. So if anybody has lost a phone, please do feel free to contact us. They are with the organizers as of now. And yes, we are behind time, but I would still request you all to please try and join us back by 2:15 sharp for the next session. So once again, 2:15, that is 14-15 hours, is when we would ideally like to start our next session. So please do try and join us back in time, and